You're listening to this week's episode of the Vacation Rental Business in Today's World podcast. You're about to start transforming your business and life with the information found here. We interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in the vacation short-term rental industry and supporting businesses. The information found here is a combination of brain science, transformational thinking, safety and loss prevention, and vacation short-term rental knowledge and experiences, all rolled into one to help you and your business to achieve levels you never thought possible. I am glad you are here, and now please welcome your host, Eric Thibodeau.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vacation Rental in Today's World podcast. I'm joined by Heather Richer, who's going to talk to us a little bit today about revenue management and having a revenue management meeting. Welcome, Heather.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about your work in your company.
Sure. So I founded Richer Logic about a year ago, and Richer Logic is focused on revenue management and distribution to drive commercial success for short-term rental and vacation rental management companies. And my background and my partner, we've done revenue management for over 10 years. And we've done revenue management for hotels, resorts, casinos, restaurants. So for us, it's really exciting to see revenue management gaining steam and importance in short-term rental and vacation rental. And really, as an industry, we're figuring it out together. We're applying these principles and now using new technology and access to data. And it's an exciting time to be learning revenue management and putting it in place for your organization.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good time. We just got back from the Data and Revenue Management Conference. And I thought, hey, wouldn't it be great to have you on just to step through having how to set up a revenue management meeting and then how to do that, the frequency and what it looks like.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think we could all benefit from that. And I know we would within our business as we work, as we're going into the slower months and start to figure out how we're going to prepare for 2022.
So where would you like to start, I guess, Eric? I know there's a quick outline you have that I shared with you, but do you want me to just jump in?
Yeah, go through that and let's talk through the agenda framework. What would the meeting look like? Who would attend? And the frequency of it.
So the way you can think about a revenue management meeting is the goal is to have yourself and your leadership team have a conversation. And it forces you, by putting it on the calendar, it forces you to be proactive and not kind of forget about it or end up being reactive. And you're talking about your top line revenue, right? Which is the lifeline of your business. So by putting it on the calendar, maybe it's just you and one other partner, or maybe it's you and several other leaders in your organization. But ultimately, to run this meeting, someone does need to be identified as a revenue leader or revenue manager, because their job will be to look at the data in advance, compile information and reporting that can be shared and reviewed. Their job is to give the narrative of the situation and the outlook and talk about decisions to impact low demand periods and where you might have opportunity to take advantage of high demand and yield. So that's the reason why you do it, and that's kind of the how. You may find you can meet weekly or bi-weekly. Maybe all you can do is meet monthly. And so you figure out where you can start and just get it on the books and start to be proactive.
And it's never really too early or too late to start looking at revenue management. How far out do you typically take a look at?
So we recommend that you want to look at a 12-month view every time you meet, at least a rolling 12-month view. What you might find is when you look at that 12 months, you have no activity, and the market has no activity farther out if you're in a short-term market. But in almost all cases, by just putting your eyes on the 12-month view, you start seeing things that help you understand, like if there is some demand, higher demand weekends, maybe that you didn't know about. Maybe there's some niche event that actually is driving demand. We also see sometimes that larger homes book farther in advance than smaller condos, and that by putting your eyes on those, you're looking at folks booking, already for next summer, right? And so that 12-month view is typically the recommended timeframe.
And we should be already setting our prices for 2022 right now as we're going forward to capture those bookings at a higher dollar if people are booking that far in advance.
Yeah, and one thing to note there is it's important to look at it to make sure you're not leaving money on the table, right? And so if you're forecasting to sell out for next June or July and August, and the market is forecasted to sell out, you don't need to be in a rush to get those bookings. And it's okay to have your calendar open, but you want to be really certain you've got the higher rates and the right stay patterns to optimize those periods.
Okay. And I noticed that in your information, you have kind of a framework, and you mentioned the first part is forecast. So how would we go about starting to forecast revenue management?
Yeah, so one of the things we recommend is if you're using whatever you're using to have insight to market data, and then how you're comparing that to your own data, the important thing is alignment. So if it's your 2-bedroom in this neighborhood compared to 2 bedrooms also in that neighborhood, and maybe there's like high end versus low end, and you have to curate the right cut and views for your portfolio. So once you do that, then when you come to that meeting, you're looking and getting the insights that matter, that are going to help you see the patterns that matter. And so by doing that, you're forecasting, right? So you can think about forecasting and optimizing rates on units that are in high demand and do have folks buying now. Maybe those lower end units aren't. So you want to separate it out, right? So you can see where there's opportunity to push rates on certain cuts or segments of your portfolio. So that's the forecast part, is getting the views right. And then when you look at it, looking at where you have low and high periods.
And if we're using key data, which is a great tool to use, this is where we can kind of get our cuts and look at how the market's doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So after we start forecasting, looking out, how does the booking window fit in there in forecasting?
Yeah, so when you think about pulling promotional levers and having your rates aligned, it is important to understand the booking window for each unit and each period, right? Like we talked about, these larger units might book farther out, larger parties, organizing, more in advance. So right now, it might be really important to make sure next summer's rates on those larger units and your length of stay restrictions are fully optimized. For your smaller units, maybe it's less important. That may or may not be true, but you would want to know that based on booking window patterns.
Okay. And so that's a good note too. I took there, look at booking window patterns by properties, not necessarily just for your whole market.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. All right. So the next step is optimize. We're going to optimize. So we have a forecast and we're starting to look at pricing. So tell us about how we optimize that pricing.
Yeah, so the optimized part is you want to do 2 things. One is when you have low periods, think about ways to generate more demand to you, drive more demand to yourself. The second is high demand periods, thinking of ways you want to yield and not leave money on the table. So once you've established your areas of focus and your units of focus, that's when you move into actually now the pulling of the levers. So that's the control part. So you did forecast, you did optimize, you're seeing what you want to do, and now you actually control by pulling the levers.
And the levers being how would we adjust pricing, or what would be control?
Yeah, so levers include raising or lowering rate, changing length of stay restrictions or policies. It can also include email marketing, social, any ways you can do direct book promotions, but also promotional opportunities on channels like Airbnb custom promotions or Vrbo boost points. And if you're on booking.com or Expedia, there are more custom ways to build promotions on those channels. And so really understanding all the tools in your toolbox, the levers, and knowing when to pull them and how to pull them.
That's really good. And something that you said earlier, and I heard at the conference, and it's one of these things that was just, when I heard it, it's like, oh yeah, but I didn't know it. So, fees are 100% to the property manager or owner, and rental rates are split between the owner and the property management company based upon your percentage. So while I'm not a huge fan of a lot of fees, it's important to know that that's a control, right? That if I charge fees, I can, I make more money potentially, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that fee model. And like if you're really using housekeeping fees also as a revenue stream, we work with different management companies, and some of them want to optimize length of stay, and they want to like avoid parties, so they're focused on 3-night, 4-night. Other management companies structure their operation in a way they want 1-night, 2-night stays, because the more they turn the unit, the more they make, because with each stay they get a fee.
Right.
So a 7-night stay will drive fewer fees in some cases than a 3 and a 4-night stay in that week. So that's where like bringing all the leadership together to understand like how does your operation work, your fee structure, contracts, and then all feeding into like what's the right revenue strategy for us.
Great. Yeah. So we went through forecast, optimize, control, and now we're in the monitor stage.
Yeah. So monitor is really just the next time you meet, right? So now you're in a groove with your team, and every time you meet, you can look at what you've done, right? So it's important to track it. We're going to do promotions on these units. We're going to, target these units in our email campaign. Whatever it is you've done, you're tracking. And so then the monitor part is, did it work? I just lowered rate. I chose to lower rate for those dates. Did I see an increased pickup in my pace? And, am I catching up to the market now where maybe I was behind? Do I like how my RevPAR is shaking out to be? And so you're just monitoring these levers that you're pulling, and are they working? And the cycle begins again. Sorry.
The cycle begins, but talk to me about what I call maybe these interruptions. So we're recording this, it's almost Labor Day, and our property management company is in Alabama, and Hurricane Ida just went through Louisiana and parts of Mississippi with a lot of damage. And we've really seen a lot of people starting to come into the market and saying, hey, we need a place to stay. And we've been accommodating them. And our owners have reached out to us and say, specifically, they want to charge these particular guests less because of the situation. So, talk to us about that, or when these situations come up, when we may want to lower prices or we want to increase prices. Basically, we're kind of just back to optimize again, correct?
Yeah. So maybe your question is about anomalies to your business, special events that like natural disasters, social unrest, these things that cause disruption in a business that are out of like the normal stay pattern. Is that what you want to talk more about? That type of thing?
That would be great. Yes.
So, well, first of all, that's good to hear. There's more of a sense of like, let's be kind, charge them less, help these displaced, owners or people that need a place to stay. Because there is something you need to be aware of in a natural disaster type situation. If there's is price gouging.
Sure.
If you go the other way, and there's actually legal ramifications if your area is under a state of emergency, and like you see that with like gas stations, there's laws that protect price gouging. But if you're trying to balance being kind and like leaving money on the table versus charging like fair market value. Maybe the conversations around, this is why these folks have insurance. It doesn't mean you need to take less. Yes, you want to have a fair price. And I would recommend, you continue with just your fair price, fair market. And if you do want to put some kind of discount, really do it in a way that's intentional. Promote it. Put a campaign around it. We're here. We're going to be here to help folks who need this. And we have a special offer in place. And I mean, that's great. Like, you're being a good neighbor, but I would say if you make that choice to like really be a good neighbor, you've got owners that are on board, talk about it, get the word out.
No, that's good. I mean, we definitely need to promote it and certainly get promoted on the Facebook group and the one that's in the area. But these people, a lot of people from Louisiana, Mississippi, stay with us in our market in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. So I think it's right. I mean, they're our neighbors and also our past guests and our future guests. And helping them in their need is important. Yeah. But then there's also those situations where we come in and I guess we're always looking back at the market as we go on, and we look at prices, increase prices as we see the market as you're getting scarce in the number of locate or availability. So.
Yeah, I mean, in a normal circumstance, right, when you have high demand in the future, that's, the right thing to do is yield pricing. And sometimes that feels scary because you might think you're pushing prices higher than you ever have before. We have those conversations a lot with our partners, actually.
Well, good. So here we are doing revenue management at some frequency, or yield management, we can call it as well. What type of benefits overall could an owner or a property management company expect to see employing some of these tactics and looking at yield management going forward?
Yeah, what we teach is, as to be the expert operator in your market, the goal is that you steal more market share than anybody else, right? So there's concept we teach around indexing and just overall market share. So like, I'll try to do some maybe easy math. This is kind of a smaller numbers here, but let's say there's $20,000 in demand into the market. There are let's call it $25,000 of demand into the market. 5 companies, you might say, well, if they all get their fair share of that $25,000, they'll each get $5,000, right, in the month.
Yeah.
That would, and maybe you'd say, okay, these are each one unit and they're all similar. So you come up with your benchmark, right? This is very simplified. Well, if you want to be the winner, right, and the expert operator, you're going to do more than $5,000 and steal share from the others. So the measurement of did you do that or not is a combination of how you look at that data in the market and your own performance. Because when you miss doing that, you might say, well, I grew 20% year over year, or I grew X amount from one month to the next. The miss there would be to say you grew 20%, but if everybody else grew 30, then you didn't actually win, right?
Yeah.
So we always try to bring to light how much opportunity there is and how much did you get and can you get.
Okay, good. So anything else before we wrap up?
No, I mean, we love this stuff, and it's exciting that folks want to learn and that revenue management is becoming, a discipline of its own in the industry. So yeah, really appreciate you having me, Eric.
Yeah, great. So how can people, if they're listening to the podcast and want to learn more about you and your business, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, we have a contact us form at richerlogic.com, or feel free to email me directly, heather@richerlogic.com.
Great. Thanks, Heather. And I'd like to have you back. We're going to use some of these things in our business and over the next few months, and then maybe have you back on and we can talk about how we've learned and improved and what could be some more strategies that we could take to get better.
Yeah, we love it. And we like to say we're going to teach you how to steal market share like a boss.
That'd be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. All right. Thanks,
Okay.
Heather. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Eric.
it. All right.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Safer VR's podcast with Eric Thibodeau. If you enjoy this, I would love you to join my Facebook group, The Safer Vacation Rentals, for more of the same. You can also join our email list at www.safervrs.com.